Hey, what is up guys? It's Stan here, back with another video. I just got back from the Apple store and look what I've got here. This is the 16-inch MacBook Pro. Today is the launch day of this MacBook Pro and I managed to snag one for in-store pickup much sooner than I expected actually. So we're gonna be unboxing it and I'm gonna give you my first impressions of this laptop. Indeed, I purchased this one on launch day, or actually when it was first revealed, and I was looking at a December release date, and you know, I was gonna be waiting several weeks, and this morning when I woke up, I went over to Apple's store and just to see what the in-stock availability for pickup was, and sure enough, there was one exactly the same as the one I ordered, the almost maxed out version. This is the 16-inch M1 Max with 64 gigs of memory and 4 terabytes of SSD with, of course, the 32-core GPU. So without further ado, let's take a look. All right, and that is the laptop. And check this out. Let's take a look at the box first. We've got the MagSafe cable, a instructions manual that, and of course, I'm sure there's stickers in here. There's always stickers, right? Looks good, actually. And here we've got the power brick. I've already unboxed this, or unwrapped it already. So we'll actually put this aside for now. And let's get to the laptop. Woo, look at this. Oh, check that out. This thing's thick. All right, so this is the laptop. Man, you know what? Initial impressions, this feels like the first generation Intel Macs, the ones that came out right around 2017, 2016, mid-2000s. You know, because it's got very, very straight sidewalls, but then it also has the rounded bottom. It feels a lot thicker than the old version, but it really isn't, just because it's not as tapered as before, and you've got that straight sidewall. And certainly before, we had to have that straight sidewall for all the ports, but you know, if they actually wanted to taper this thing, they probably could have. But I think it's the design language, because I suspect from what I was seeing here, actually, let me just open this up. Oh, and that startup sound, it's back. It's great. Whew. I was saying here, because the screen, it's got the mini LED screen inside, the screen, the top portion is substantially thicker than my previous MacBook Pro, and let me go grab that. Check this out. So this is the late 2019 MacBook Pro, and I'm actually not sure, can this even show up on the camera? The screen is almost twice as thick as the old one. And again, the old one has a little bit of a taper towards the edge as well, but because it's thicker, I think that's why they needed to go with that flat back and then the straight sidewall, and that requirement kind of extends into the straight sidewall of this new MacBook Pro. And then because it's rounded on the bottom, they also rounded the top a little bit. I think that is the biggest difference, or the biggest throwback, is its rounded edges, both top and bottom here, is really, really, really contrasting with this one. This one, even though it's tapered and thinner, it's got very sharp edges both on the bottom and on the side top. And as you hold it, right, remember, if you ever had this old MacBook Pro, your fingers would, or your hand would kind of cut into this lip right here and then the vent lip, and you would definitely feel it when you're holding it. This new one, on the other hand, certainly you have this one sharp edge where the fan is, but every other side is very, very, very smooth. And it's kind of nice. Let's take a look at the screen. Oh man. Oh man. Look at that. Look at that. See how big of a difference this is? Oh man. So this can get extremely bright. It's already on max brightness, but you can see here with that light and with my studio lights here, it's still not being washed out. So it looks really good. Physically, the MacBook Pro is very much the same as the old versions, a little bit longer, a little bit taller, because it's got a slightly bigger screen. But the reason why you have that mainly bigger screen is because of the cutout at the top. You do have the notch. Notch doesn't bother me, really. I'd much rather have that extra real estate up top. This is the new power brick with the MagSafe connector. So the new MagSafe connector's got both a USB-C on one end and the MagSafe 3 on the other hand, enabling fast charge up to 140 watts with the 16-inch model, because this power brick is the 16-inch version. And the braided cable, this braided cable is really nice. We'll have to see if this holds up, because, you know, if you remember the old MagSafe, you would always get a little bit of rubber fraying in the end here. And then once it starts fraying, it starts shorting out, then the entire power brick is done for. It's nice that you've got USB-C to connect and disconnect, so if this ever ends up fraying, you can always replace it. It's the power brick that's expensive, but the wire, you know, actually Apple charges a premium on everything. I think the wire is also like 20 some bucks or whatever, but I'd much rather pay the 20 some bucks for the wire than a new power brick. You got the engraving MacBook Pro. This is the only mark on the entire laptop that has MacBook Pro on it. You lost the old MacBook Pro little logo down here. I kind of like this one actually, but you know, it's not that big of a deal now that it's gone. It's, you know, not here anymore, but whatever, it's no big deal. Keyboard's the same as the updated 2019 version. It's the much better butterfly keyboard than the 2017, 2016, whenever they redesigned the 16-inch MacBook Pro. We have lost the touch bar up top, now replaced with full-size keys. And the Touch ID on the right-hand side, it's still a button, meaning it will click down, same as the power button, but the actual button is more of a switch than the actual key, so the texture is a little bit different, or the way it actuates is a little bit different. Looking at it right now, one big reason why I feel like this is very, very modern compared to the old one is the rounded off corners. It's a very little subtle thing, but on the old MacBook Pros, the chassis is rounded off on the top corners, right? But you've got squared off actual LCD like every other laptop, right? But on this one, you've got the rounded LCD, so you kind of lost a few pixels in the corner. It's actually rounded off LCDs. If you recall back in the day, the OS would actually disable a few of the pixels to round off the edges. It's kind of an old OS X design language here. So that's back, and the fact that the chassis is rounded off and the screen is rounded off, it looks really good because the bezel is consistent all the way around, and you know, disregarding the notch, everything looks very equal and very good. We do have corners or sharp corners at the bottom. That's, you know, that's all right because you've got you know, text down there or stuff that can be actually displayed down there. Up the top, you'll never actually have stuff at the top because you got the top taskbar, so I don't think that's a big deal. You're not really losing that much for having rounded corners, but it looks pretty good. Again, just a quick look, first impressions. It is really, really refreshing to see a brand new design for the MacBook Pro. It's a thick boy. This thing is thick and hefty in a good way. You know, I'd much rather have a slightly thicker MacBook Pro that performs a little bit better than something that's, you know, all form and no function, right? So over the next few days, I'm probably going to be releasing a handful of videos on doing tests, benchmarks, and whatever content with this MacBook Pro. So if you want to see that, make sure to subscribe. And if you like this video, make sure to hit that like button. It always helps this channel. And as always, my name is Stan, and I'll see you guys in the next one.